Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Pure Finesse. With today, we are only 4 days away from the start of the NBA season. Malcolm, are you ready to
I'm
finally have some
ready.
TV that has sports on at least every day of the week rather than just Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays?
Yeah, and sometimes the occasional Saturday, like this week. But no, I am ready for the NBA season to start. Only a week away now, and I just couldn't be more excited. And we have a lot to talk about this today for the
Absolutely,
NBA
yeah. There's so
season
much,
preview.
so much storylines to get into the during COVID NBA season with teams not being in the bubble to start off the year. And the team that won last season, they stay winning. They stay
Yeah,
better with the free agent acquisitions that they had during the offseason, adding Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder. That's the Los Angeles Lakers, who are your defending NBA champions. I think it's no surprise to most people that they are going to have the best odds of winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy for the
yeah.
2020-2021 season. I know you have one guy you want to talk about, so I'll let you right into it.
Well, this is from preseason, and I swear I might have heard this guy before, but I was like researching him. I'm like, no, this guy is our age. If not, we're older than him because he's born in November and we're in May. Um, but it's Taylor Horton Tucker, and he's been balling out over the three preseason games that he played. And in the G League beforehand, too, he was playing really well. Over the last three games in the preseason, he averaged 23 points, 8 boards, 3.3 assists, and 2.3 steals. I don't think that's not too shabby. I know it's just the preseason. You can't get too excited about the preseason, but he's showing that he maybe belongs in the NBA and not in the G League where he was playing last year. So do you think he's going to actually come up and maybe be a bench player on the team, or do you think he's
Yeah,
going to stay in the G League?
I don't know too much about this guy to tell you the truth, but I think it's pretty hard to ignore 23 points per game being averaged in NBA games
In
because you know what,
NBA,
you're
yeah,
going up against NBA talent, right? You're not going up against scrubs, so
exactly.
it's pretty hard not to ignore 23 points per game. But honestly, I think he will. Like if he's playing the positions of LeBron or AD, because I think those guys are going to have a little more rest than what you normally see. Like you saw in the preseason game against Phoenix, they already getting their ice baths done in the third quarter. Prima donnas, but you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Yeah.
But with the new rule this season, with load management not being a thing, that you can't bench players because of rest for nationally televised games, and you know the team who's going to have the most nationally televised games for the year
Yeah,
is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. So I
without a doubt.
think that if you have games that you're not going to be on national TV, I think you're going to see less and less of LeBron and AD. But hopefully not, because fantasy owners who are LeBron and AD owners, like yours truly, hopefully won't see that happen. But there's a lot of other teams that have a good shot at winning the NBA title this year, other than the Lakers. You know, the LA Clippers is a very, very interesting team for some obvious reasons. They got rid of Doc Rivers for a long tenured coaching stint in LA.
Yeah,
Tyronn Lue, the former Cleveland Cavaliers bench boss, is going to be the new head of the realm there. He knows how to deal with some superstar players like he
that's
did
true.
when he won the title in 2016 with LeBron, Kyrie, and K Love. And he's going to have to do that with Paul George and Kawhi. So, how do you think they're going to fare this year?
I don't know. I don't expect the Clippers. Oh, I think a lot of people expect the Clippers to be one of those top two teams, just like last year, 1 and 2 with the Lakers. But honestly, I don't think that's going to be the case this year because there's a lot of other talent on a bunch of other teams, especially in the West. And I think there's a bunch of other contenders that are able to make a push this year. So I don't expect the Clippers to be as good as everyone thinks this year, honestly, in my opinion. But they're still going to be, I think, a playoff team for sure.
Yeah, they did add Serge Ibaka from the Raptors. So,
Yep.
they're obviously going to have to replace Montrezl Harrell because he was like sixth man of the year last year and he played a huge role for the Clippers. So Serge, I think, is going to be your starting power forward in La La Land. So maybe not. Maybe you see Kawhi start at the four,
La, la, la.
but Zubac is going to be your starting center. We don't know. I like if they need to upgrade the point guard position in LA because Pat Bev is arguably one of the best defensive players in the game,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't bring much to the table offensively. So obviously, you have playoff P hitting backboards every chance he gets. So hopefully, he can learn out those kinks. But I think you need that another piece to have, I think, a good shot at beating the Lakers.
Yeah,
That's my personal
100%.
opinion. One of the better younger teams in the West is the Denver Nuggets after Jamal Murray, who you happen to know his girlfriend. Who what sport does he what sport does he play?
Volleyball.
That's right, yeah, volleyball. He played his heart out in the bubble, so I think a lot of people are be paying more attention to Denver this season. They were going to have a
Mhm.
healthy Michael Porter Jr. for the whole season this year, and you saw how good
That's
he
great
played
news.
in the bubble. And
Exactly.
like Michael Porter Jr., I think is slept on just because of how injured he was. Like Joel Embiid earlier in his career, right? He didn't get off to a
Exactly.
great start, but Michael Porter Jr. is a great player, and he's played well when he plays, and if he's healthy. So I think Denver, I think, has the best chance of knocking off the Lakers.
I think so too. And I think one player who should be playing is Bobo. And I think Bobo should be playing, but others aside from Bobo, obviously Nikola Jokic, the Joker. I think that's one person who could really up his game this year if with Jamal Murray, who just played great in the bubble as well in the playoffs, and then their whole supporting cast, I think, is a good team. And you saw it last year; they made it far, and they're able to make deep runs in the playoffs. So, like you said, they really do have the best shot at knocking out the Lakers in the West.
Yeah, like I think Jamal Murray's going to play his way onto the All Star team this year,
Yeah,
along with Jokic.
yeah, um, yeah. You want to
Dallas Mavericks is another curious team coming out of the West. They didn't play as much as they wanted to in the bubble, but I think you want to chalk that up to Kristaps Porzingis being hurt.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Luka Doncic is arguably a top 5 player in the NBA. But I don't think that they didn't get much better in the offseason. So I think they're just running it out with the team they have now.
Hmm.
They lost Seth Curry,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
but they added Josh Richardson, who I absolutely love. Thank you very much, man, in Vegas. So he becomes a starting shooting guard along with Luca and Porzingis. They've been linked to Victor Oladipo for a long time for a trade speculation. So I don't know if that gets done before the season starts or trade deadline day. But I think if the Mavs are making a push to be a top 3 team in the West, I think you're going to see Victor Oladipo become a Maverick, or they're going to add another piece, which they need to do, personally
Yeah,
speaking.
and one thing I saw, like I think it was Skip Bayless who said this, and he came out and said, "Oh, Luka Doncic, he's a player. He's not a good shooter. He's not a clutch shooter. He's like a lazy player." I'm like, not a clutch shooter. Did you see the game winner buzzer beater he hit last year? I think it's just Skip being Skip, trying to stir the pot. He's the next. I think Luca is going to be Skip's next LeBron James, where he goes against the
Uh,
grain and just, you know what I mean. And I think that's what it is. But the Mavs are going to be real, like a real team this year. They were last year. Kristaps just got injured, and that's what really hurt them. If he's health, if he can stay healthy, and Luca continues to play the way he's been playing, then they really do have a shot making a deep run as well.
yeah, like Luca's got a real good case to be the MVP this year, without a question.
Yeah, exactly.
My team, the Toronto Raptors, I would say lost free agency. Obviously, they got the biggest fish re-signing Fred VanVleet, but
Yeah.
they lose Serge Ibaka, they lose Marc Gasol in hopes of signing the guy who just signed for almost $500 million,
Yes.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think that was more their goal was looking at 2021 season rather than this one in terms of free agency money allocation. So I think a lot of people again, like they were last year, sleeping on the Raptors as per usual. But I think they will be a playoff team, but I think realistic expectations for them would be bouncing out in the second round.
Yeah, that's like the realistic expectations. I agree with you. It would be like they could maybe, what if they pull off that miracle run again, a Cinderella run, and make it to the finals? But the teams are just so stacked this in this league now that it's going to be really hard for the Raps unless they got Giannis or like one of those big superstar names to come join them. It's going to be hard for them to make it out of the East because there's too many good teams in the East.
Exactly. But the one guy that's been playing well for them, Malachi Flynn, their draft
Yeah,
pick, he's been playing very, very, very well
very
for
well.
the Raptors. And I think them being in Tampa Bay kind of hurts his his brand, Malachi Flynn, because I think if he was in Toronto and there's more media coverage and the fans were there, I
Oh,
think a lot of people would be singing Malachi Flynn's praise. Like he dropped 17 last preseason game against the Charlotte Hornets. So
17 Gs.
just I don't think they were planning on re-signing Fred VanVleet, and he did. So Terrence Davis, we know, has that domestic violence issue. I think his court date's coming up this week. So I think they were just planning on having backup plans
Yeah.
and re-signing or signing Malachi Flynn. So he might be again like a diamond in the rough because the Raptors have drafted I would say very well the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like Pascal Siakam, a draft pick, Norm Powell's a draft pick, OG Anunoby's a draft pick, Chris Boucher,
All still with the team.
all still with, and I think that's really hard to see like in today's NBA with how small contract extensions are because the max you can sign is only 5 years,
Yeah, exactly.
and there's no loyalty in the NBA as much
Except for
people
with
want to
Giannis.
emphasize.
Except with Giannis.
Besides Giannis,
And
right?
I kind of I want to say something about that. I'm not like the biggest Giannis fan, but I totally respect the way he came out, like grew up and everything, and got to the league with his brothers. And even after him signing with the Bucks, I think I just gained more respect for him because in today's NBA, you see like players will take the easy way out and go to. He
The
could have went
Raptors.
anywhere. He could have went anywhere. He could have went to the Raptors. They would have won.
Well, Miami was like hot on
Miami,
those trails.
he would have won. Like there was a bunch of teams he could have won, and it was almost a guaranteed lock that they win. But he stayed with the Bucks. He said that's his home, and he wants to have a championship there. I just had a lot of respect because you don't see loyalty in the NBA, and once you see it, it's just something so rare nowadays. So
Well, we'll just stay on the subject of the Bucks, right? Because
yeah,
they lost Wesley Matthews and they lost Bogdanovich for whatever reason with all that fiasco happening on free agency night. So the team is still kind of in a flux, I would say, on if they got better or worse. Dante DiVincenzo, the Villanova shooting guard, I think is going to play a bigger role for them this year. No Eric Bledsoe for Milwaukee. I don't know who their starting point guard is going to be. But George Hill's still there, right? Chris Middleton I think, had a great bubble.
they have Drew
But
Holiday, don't they?
yes, that's it. Drew Holiday is
That's
going to
who
be
it
a
is.
starting
That's
point
what I was
guard,
thinking.
which I think is an upgrade over
Yeah,
Eric Bledsoe. You have both the Lopez brothers. So I think they're still right there in terms of being the NBA front runner to win the title. But they need to get out of the East, man. Because I think if they don't get
they
out of the
really
East
do.
this year, there's going to be some real issues.
Yeah, once you
Whether
it's
that's
almost
coaching or
like
that's personnel, I don't know.
yeah, like you have arguably the best player in the league, arguably. Well, he won two back-to-back MVPs, and you get almost get swept by the Miami Heat, who weren't even supposed to be where they were in the finals. And I don't know. The Bucks just have to change something. They gotta change something.
Yeah, whether that's coaching, personnel, front office, it's got to come first. Unless they prove us wrong and
Yeah,
they go for
exactly.
all 16 wins.
Exactly. They could. Who knows? I doubt it. On the next team, though, my team, the Boston Celtics, their biggest move this offseason, getting Tristan Thompson, obviously, kind of to back up for Daniel Tice because Daniel Tice is still going to be that starting center for the team.
I don't think
Uh,
so. There's no chance in no.
I
Tristan
don't want it
Thompson's
to
gonna be your
happen. I
starting
want
center.
Thompson to start, but they're saying Tice is going to start over
Nah.
Thompson. I don't want it to happen. I'd rather Tristan Thompson, good Canadian lad on the Celtics now. Right from Cleveland, has some championship pedigree, winning in 2016. But do you think that the Celtics have enough to make it to the finals in the
They're
East?
my finals pick. Like as much as I
Really?
want to say it, I think they are going to be facing off against the Lakers in the finals.
Yeah,
Like generations fewer than us. No, Lakers Celtics are just historic in the finals,
just
whether that be in the 60s, the 80s, or the 2000s.
exactly.
It's synonymous with the NBA brand. So I think it'd be great for the game, especially now without having fans. I think it's going to draw a lot of TV attention if the Celtics and Lakers meet in the finals. I know I'm sure you've seen the stat that a Tuesday night football game got more ratings than the clinching NBA Finals game.
I did see that. That was, I think it was the Wednesday night. It was, or the Wednesday game, or whatever.
Bills
Yeah,
or
one of the
Ravens
games got
Steelers,
more. Yeah, exactly. Ravens Steelers got more than the finals
and
by
the
a
Ravens
lot.
had their third string team on.
Exactly. Like football is just on another level. But getting back to the Celtics, I wanted to talk about Jason Tatum and how he
On the
alleged
max contract now.
on the max contract and 2 inches taller. He's
That's
six
right. Yeah, he's 6'10" now.
6'10" now. He's still growing. Donovan Mitchell calling
Well,
him out
speaking of
white.
growing, you got Taco Fall. You think he plays any more of a role this year than last year?
I don't know. I don't
Because he's
think
re-signed for 2 more years.
I think he'll be getting more minutes, but I don't think he's gonna have a more like a bigger role. But
He's
he'll
been
get more
playing a lot in the
minutes.
preseason.
Yeah, I think he'll get more playing time for sure. I think that Jason Tatum's going to be more. He can play almost anywhere. He could be a center right now if you wanted to. You have PJ Tucker on Houston who was a center. So if he can be a center, I'm pretty sure a guy who's 6'10" could be a center. There's a lot of 6'10" centers. And I think one player who's really going to elevate his game on the Celtics is Jaylen Brown. And I wouldn't be surprised if he made the All-Star game this year because I think that him and Tatum are going to be that dynamic duo. A lot of people don't realize how close they are together. They're talking all the time, trying to improve their game. Just watch out for Jaylen Brown. That's all I want to say about him.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the reigning defending Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat, I think, are still being overlooked
Yeah.
with everybody being title contenders. They kept Goran Dragic. I don't know how well of he didn't play much outside of but before the shutdown happened, and then Kendrick Nunn caught COVID, and then they just opened the door for Goran Dragic, and he just lit up the place.
Yep.
So I think Kendrick Nunn is the answer for point guard in Miami,
Yeah.
but if Goran Dragic is still hot, you play the hot hand. But Tyler Hero, I should have been Rookie of the Year for sure because he was unbelievable in the
You're
bubble.
kidding.
Should have, absolutely.
Over Jaw.
Yes,
You're kidding.
absolutely.
You're,
Absolutely. Where was Ja
Wow.
in the playoffs? Nowhere. Tyler Hero was unbelievable in the playoffs. Duncan
Hero had Jimmy
Robinson.
Butler to carry him.
Duncan Robinson is now a household name that we know who's a
Yes.
sharpshooter.
Yeah,
And
he's
Bam
real.
Adebayo, honestly, I think is a top five center in
Bam.
the NBA.
100% Bam's gonna on another level right now, I think, and
So
he's gonna be on another level. Didn't he sign a huge contract too?
he signed the, yeah, I don't know if it's a max.
It's
Maybe he
on
did. No,
max.
I think he did sign the max.
It was?
But
Damn.
this team they didn't fall apart. Like all their core is still here. So they finished what, the 5 seed in the East last year.
I think so, yeah.
So I think that's a realistic expectation because I think it's going to be Bucks, Celtics, and then I think a team we're going to get to in a second is going to be number 3, and that's going to be Raptors and the Heat.
That's a good prediction. I like that prediction. But there are some teams that we didn't mention who are kind of like dark horses and have a shot at making the finals and making a deep run. What are some of your dark horse pick teams like to
Well,
make
since
the
we
to win it all?
basically have the same, thank you very much. I'll just talk about the teams that you don't want it, that you didn't have listed, and one of them is the New Orleans Pelicans. This is just a
Yeah,
really really good young team who I would say got better. They added Steven Adams, so I think that's a great, like, as they really do not have a whole lot of veteran pieces, except I think Steven Adams and JJ Redick are the only two that are over 30, I would think. But you have your full year of Zion, like healthy,
yeah.
not coming out, not have to prove anybody wrong in the rookie season. So you have a healthy Zion. Lonzo Ball is still a good point guard in the league, as much as people don't want to say it, he is. Jackson Hayes is a great young center. Josh Hart is a year more experience. I think they can slide into a playoff spot
And
in the
Brandon Ingram
West.
too.
And coming off that big contract extension,
Exactly.
most improved player.
100% most improved player. I'm so happy for him because on the Lakers, he was getting scrutinized on the Lakers and being like, "Oh, you can't play with LeBron. What's wrong with you? Like, how you not good?" I love to see him thrive in New Orleans. When you want to go for your second team,
Yeah, sure. We got the Houston Rockets up next. James Harden is kind of a question mark for a lot of people, whether
mm.
that be playing or whether that be on your fantasy team. But a Houston coach from previous years said that James would go out and party in Vegas and then come back and then drop a 50-point triple double. So I
It's
think
Dennis
there's really
Rodman all over again.
yeah, there's nothing to worry about with James Harden because
Exactly.
he's going to get you 30 plus a night, guaranteed. A lot
Exactly.
of buzz over Christian Wood because
Yeah.
he's on a big contract, right? And I didn't really hear about Christian Wood until he signed this contract. I was with Detroit, but he dropped 27 last night for the Houston Rockets in preseason action.
Yep.
So he's going to be there for the long haul. And you got your two Kentucky teammates and John Wall and Boogie Cousins with a lot to
Oh,
prove this season. So John
wow.
Wall hasn't really played in a year and a half, and Boogie Cousins has not played Boogie Cousins basketball in almost 3 years. So you have
Exactly. Yeah.
so much to prove on Houston. So they're playing with a lot to play for this year.
hmm they're a team that I think a lot of teams are going to be scared of, honestly, to play against because they have a lot of weapons. Um, I'll get to the teams that I said. I know I picked like four,
Pretty
but
obvious ones.
yeah, the pretty obvious one. The first one is the Brooklyn Nets. That's with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, the whole coaching staff there. They have a good bench. I think that they're just. I don't know if they're going to make it all the way because I think there's too many egos on this team. When I remember reading in 2018, I think it was after the 2017 finals, Kevin Durant was complaining about Steph Curry getting the ball all the time, and he was just complaining like, "I need the ball in my hands. Like, why is Steph shooting the ball? I should be shooting the ball." So if Kyrie does not want to pass the ball, then I think Kevin Durant will find some problems. But I think they do have some chemistry. They've talked about it. They've had many times, like a bunch of time to go over everything. Do you think the Nets are championship contenders this year?
Well, I think they have to be, right. But talk
Yeah.
about chemistry, right? That's why Kyrie left Cleveland, because he wanted to be the guy in Boston and then left again, right? So
Yeah.
he's with Brooklyn, and he blatantly said that there shouldn't be a coach in Brooklyn, right? We can
Yeah.
coach ourselves. That was even before Steve Nash, or that was after Steve Nash was hired. So I really don't like. I'm sure that's not the way Steve Nash want to start his tenure off in Brooklyn. But there's a lot of talent on this team, right? You just mentioned KD, you mentioned Kyrie, Joe Harris re-signed, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. We can go on and on. This team's
Yep.
really good on
Yeah.
paper, but it's all a matter of they put together on the floor, right? We said the same thing about the Clippers last year, right? They looked really good on paper, but got bounced out in the second round. So it'll be interesting to see what Steve Nash does as a rookie coach. You have Mike D'Antoni and Amari Stoudemire, which I know you know is their coaching staff.
Yep. You
So
know that.
this team's really good. Like, they should be a top 5 team, top 3 team in the East, and
Yeah.
challenge
Honestly, they
for
should.
the
Yeah.
Eastern Conference Championship.
I think if they don't finish top five, then it's kind of almost a bust. But
We don't know
Obviously,
how good Katie's going to be after his Achilles injury, right? It's all about to see how good, how durable that foot is on Kevin
exactly.
Durant.
So we're gonna see how that goes. Another team that's a team that hasn't made the playoffs in a few seasons is the Atlanta Hawks, and they had a few offseason accusations this offseason, and then Trey Young is still there, right? I don't think I don't want to talk about Trey Young. I don't think he's going to get the ball in his hands as much as he's gonna like to this year, just because of all the people that they've added. I know he's the point guard, so he's gonna be running the offense, but I don't think he's gonna be taking as many shots as he would like to this year. What do you think about
I think
that?
Trae Young is the guy in
You think so?
Atlanta. I think he's the best player on this team.
Oh,
Like
100%.
obviously you added Danilo Gallinari
Hmm.
and a full season with Clint Capella, so you have a pretty good starting lineup, right? You got Trey Young, Danilo, DeAndre Hunter,
Hunter, that's
Cam
right. Yeah.
Reddish, Clint Capella. So it's a pretty good base, right? And to see like teams that finished in the bottom half of the Eastern Conference playoff standings, I think that this team is a lot better than the teams that finished seventh and eighth. So I really do see the Atlanta Hawks making the playoffs this year. I don't know how long the playoffs tenure would be, but I
Maybe.
think that that's a realistic goal for Atlanta this year is to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think they can get to that seventh, eighth seed. I know it's going to be hard because every team, like we keep saying, it's going to be a competitive season. But I think they have good enough depth right now to make it into that seventh or eighth seed. Next team,
This is I am really excited to see this
I
team.
am excited to see this team because you have three big names on this team with CP3, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton on the Phoenix Suns. And the Phoenix Suns, I think that Chris Paul going to play with Devin Booker and just be able to pass that ball to them, throw some lobs to DeAndre Ayton, I think this is a team to look out for to make a really deep push because CP3 wants a ring. Like every player that doesn't have a ring wants a ring. And Devin Booker's no slouch, 70 points in the game against the Celtics. That was only a couple seasons ago, and he's only getting better. DeAndre
He's only
Ayton,
23 years old.
exactly.
Like
He's
I think I
23.
feel like Devin Booker's been in the league forever.
I'm saying he's one of those players like in the NHL, like Nathan McKinnon. You feel like he's been in forever, but he's only like 23 or 24 years old. Um, I'm excited to see that. And then DeAndre Ayton, he's only going to get better too. He's still very young. So I'm excited for this team. How excited are you for this team?
Yeah, I would say an underrated signing for Phoenix would be Jake Crowder. I am a huge fan of Jake
Yeah,
Crowder's game. He
he's
played
been
very
everywhere.
well in the bubble and the NBA Finals. He
Yep.
is your prototypical 3 and D guy.
Yep.
Like give it to him, spot up shooter, and he'll lock down LeBron on the defensive side of the ball. Like it's a great ad for Phoenix, and they went 8-0 in the bubble, right? So I mean that the only team to be undefeated. So Monty Williams, the head coach there, has got some pretty good thing to base on
Yeah.
if coming into this season finishing 8-0 in the bubble. So I really do see. I think if they should be making it to the second round this year. I don't know if that's a realistic goal, but
Yeah.
that's what they should be at with the team they have this year.
100% pass the first round for sure. And I think even winning the second round with the team that they have.
So you're telling me
And
it's
then
gonna be
the
a
final team that it's
Western
kind of a
Conference
long
Finals for
shot,
the
but
Suns?
I think Western Conference final. I think so, maybe. Yeah. Oh, internet's my bad. My internet's just going bad. But the last team I wanted to mention is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, drafting Anthony Edwards. They still have
Played
Cat.
great last night for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, played really good. Cat still there, and then Andrew Wiggins too. So another good trio there, a younger trio. But I think that they might make. I don't think they're going to do anything above and beyond, but I think they might make a push for that eighth seed, just like the Hawks will in the East. So
Yeah,
what
like
do you
there's
think?
the big three in Minnesota: D'Angelo Russell, Carl Anthony
Oh, that's who it
Towns.
is. Russell, not
But
Wiggins. My
we
bad.
wanted to see how good Anthony Edwards really is because a lot of people are comparing him to Anthony Bennett just because of how lesser known Anthony Edwards is. So hopefully he can prove those guys wrong. Ricky Rubio makes his return back to Minnesota, so he'll be back there. And Joshua Okogie, like a lot of people don't talk about Joshua Okogie, but he's a really good defender. He's just got to work on his offensive game a bit more, but I think that'll just work itself out. But yeah, Minnesota's a good team.
Yeah,
I just think they should get rid of Flip Saunders' son Ryan. That's a really it doesn't sit well with me that one of the best coach, if not the best coach in that organization's history, when he passes away, you hire his son. I don't know. I get that's just a really weird situation. I think it's a great sentimental value to the team, but I just think it's gonna be really awkward once you have to fire him. It will happen if they don't make the playoffs.
yeah, it will. And then aside from, so we're talking about all these teams making it to the finals and who we think's going to win. But now I want to get to which players do you think are going to break out this season and have the best season? So, kind of like our MVP candidates. I think we basically have the same top three that a lot of people really know, and I'll just name them now. It's LeBron James,
Of
Luka
course,
Doncic,
of
and Giannis
course,
Antetokounmpo.
of
Those
course.
three, of course, those three for sure, like without a doubt, are in that conversation. But there are also a lot of other players in this league. It's not just three players, so anyone can do anything. Do you want to go to yours first? Talk about your three first.
Yeah, I would just say if this guy does not win MVP, he is definitely winning Most Improved, and that's Kevin Durant of the Brooklyn Nets. He is just an
Yeah,
absolute freak of nature. How he's 6'10" and just spot up hit threes. Like you said, if Jason Tatum 6'10", he's the younger Kevin Durant. So
yeah,
I think if he does not win MVP, he's definitely going to win Most Improved. James Harden is another one. He's 30 points a night at least. He's going to average 30 points a night. And he is going to be the guy in Houston,
mm-hmm.
right? There's no second fiddle. So it's just when he won MVP like that before, it was just him in Houston. So it could be the same situation again. And then Russell Westbrook playing in Washington. Him and Bradley Beal could be a very dangerous combination. I don't know how good the bench will be there, but your
Yeah,
boy Rui Hachimura is on the Washington Wizards in his second year, so maybe they can make a push for the playoffs. But Russell Westbrook's going to be the guy in
yeah,
Washington, and if he can play off,
that's what he
or if
wants.
Bradley Beal can play off of Westbrook, I think it's going to be a really nice marriage there in Washington.
Yeah, I think so. Like Westbrook wanted to be that guy, right? And he's going to be that number one guy there. He wasn't there in Houston, but a lot of people saying, just on the topic of Westbrook, saying that Westbrook's the problem, that's why he left, and that's why he was out of Houston. And then you have all these players come out and say that Westbrook was the best teammate on and off the court, and like a bunch of players saying he was their favorite teammate to ever play with. I think the narrative on Russell Westbrook is always kind of fiddled around by the media, and obviously that's the case for a lot of people. But Westbrook, I think a lot of people think that he's like a mean guy, but I think he's a really nice guy and a really good teammate. And if he can play well with Beal, that they could do something special there.
Well, and their head coach in Washington is Scott Brooks, who, if you don't know, was the head coach for
Yeah.
the OKC Thunder when Russell Westbrook came into the league when they made the finals back in 2012. So
Damn.
who knows, right? Like, Scott Brooks is going to know Russell Westbrook's tendencies, and I'm sure he's going to know how to get the best out of him.
Yeah. And then my last pick, other than the names we already mentioned, is Damian Lillard. So on the Portland Trailblazers, I think Dame, he's like I said with CP3, he's a guy searching for a ring. He's still very young. He's not like he's an old head or anything, but he's gonna have to play really good basketball. Play with CJ McCollum. I don't know. They just got to get out of that the second round and just I don't know. I don't think they have enough depth to make it, but I think Dame is just gonna have an outstanding year this year, and he's gonna make a name for him. Like not make him a name. He's already made a name for himself, but I think he's gonna get himself into that MVP conversation even more than he already has in previous seasons.
Right. And the team's good, right? Like you have Dame, you have CJ McCollum, you signed Carmelo Anthony,
Yeah.
good audition, and Robert Covington is now on Portland.
Oh
And
yeah.
Nurkic, right? He's coming off the broken leg, so he should be back and ready to go. Zach Collins again got injured, so he'll be back. It's a good team, right? Like they almost made a good push against the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, give them a good run for their money. And I would say it was the best test for the Lakers, right? Because you really didn't have a whole lot of more competition out of the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah. That's true. I agree. But now we want to get into some storylines and like some questions. What do you think is going to happen with this and this? So I'll just get into it. The first one kind of already touched on it, but will the Atlanta Hawks end their playoff drought, which was since 2016, 2017? Do you think that they're going to end their playoff drought this year?
Well, let me think. So Atlanta, I really do think they will. Just I think Trey Young, I think will play like an all-star point guard for the Hawks this year. And you probably have one of the best seasoned veterans in Danilo Gallinari for the league, I would say. Like he came
Yeah,
from OKC Thunder, where they made the playoffs, right? And I think he's quietly one of the best players in the league just because he averages around 16, 17, 18 points per game.
exactly. He's not talked
So
about.
it just doesn't get much recognition.
Mm-hmm.
So and a full season with Clint Capella, which I still don't believe that the Houston Rockets traded away Clint Capella, but that
Yeah, I
happened.
know.
So and I think it's great for Atlanta to have him there. And you have two second-year players in DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, who again aren't slouches. They know how to
No.
play the game of basketball. So I'm sure like this team is young. I'll give them that.
Yeah, They're
but
a young
I
team.
think they can surprise a lot of people and make the playoffs. I wouldn't say make a deep run in the playoffs, but I think they will get one of those 8 spots.
I think so too. I think they'll get one of those 8 spots and like 6 to 8. I think they'll contend for. And I don't know if they're going to make a deep run. I don't think they're going to make a deep run, but I'd say they maybe make it past the first round, or it's a first round exit for them this year.
Which I would
Um,
say would be a success.
exactly. That would be a success with such a young team. Second question about my Boston Celtics. We already talked about it, but like, how big of a role will Tristan Thompson play on the Celtics this year? Do you
Well, if you're
think?
telling me that or Daniel Tice is going to be your starting center for Boston, Brad Stevens has got to get his poop in a group
Yeah,
because Tristan Thompson is no way capable of coming off the bench for the Boston Celtics, right? Like the glaring need in Boston would have been a starting center, and you got one in free agency, and you're going to put him on the bench.
exactly. You can't put him on the bench. That's all. Like, that's the one piece you were missing. The one
Exactly.
piece, and you're gonna bench him?
Exactly.
I
And
don't
it's
think
not
so.
like this guy is a slouch. He's an NBA champion, one of the best rim protectors in the league. I know he's small, but so is Daniel Tice. But Tristan
Exactly.
Thompson knows how to work his frame.
Yep.
Like, but the jump shot of Tristan Thompson could use some work. The free throw line form could use some work. But they needed rim protection and they got it, and they're not going to start him. Like that's just I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope that he starts because ever since they signed him, I'm like, oh, okay, we got our center. We're winning the chip this year. And then I came out and saw because I'm always paying attention to the Celtics news. Like, oh yeah, Daniel Tice is going to be starting. I'm like, are you sure? I hope that changes before the season starts. So I'm keeping up with that just to make sure Tristan Thompson starts this year. We already talked about this. I'll skip to the next one then because we kind of really talked about Kyrie and Durant making it into a deep playoff run or not. But this one is about one rookie this year, probably the most famous
Talked
rookie,
about for sure.
talked about rookie for sure, covered all over ESPN and SportsCenter no matter what. Is how good will LaMelo Ball be this year, and does he win Rookie of the Year?
I think he will. Just
Mhm.
I don't he's going to be the guy already in Charlotte. Like him and Gordon Hayward are kind of the 1-2,
Yeah,
but LaMelo is probably the most talked about prospect in a long time. I know him and Zion have been linked together for a long time since they've been in high school.
yep.
But yeah, like LaMelo Ball's been played pretty well for the Hornets in the preseason, not the first game, but yesterday played very, very well. So he's got that swag to him, looking back at the bench after he nails a three in his first or second preseason game, like give me a
Closing his
break, kid.
eyes.
Exactly, right? So he's got the swagger for him, and I think like he is gonna be the primary guy in Charlotte to get the ball, right? Because they have Gordon Hayward, scary Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham played very well for Charlotte. I think he was on the Rising Stars. He was in the Rising Stars game last year, an All-Star team for Devontae Graham in Charlotte. So like the team is
Yeah.
it's kind of on the cusp of being a playoff team. So I really do think LaMelo takes him to another level, and I think he will win Rookie of the Year.
And with LaMelo Ball being in Charlotte, I think that may attract maybe LiAngelo Ball going to the Charlotte Hornets too. He had a
He
brief
did
stint
not
with the Detroit
deserve to
Pistons.
be did not deserve to be released.
No, he did not deserve to be released, and I agree with LeVar's comments saying that the Pistons are a raggedy organization. Sorry, Steve-O, but they
Absolutely.
are, and I
Joke.
really don't think
Absolute
that they're
joke.
a great organization. But with LaMelo Ball over there, I think, yeah, I think it's absolute joke. So I think with LaMelo Ball there, maybe LiAngelo gets attracted there, and all the Ball brothers maybe meet up in Charlotte one day. But I think LaMelo Ball is going to be off the charts this year for Charlotte and be that guy, like you said.
Right. Our next one is that.
And
Oh, I'll go.
yeah, you
What
go.
is
No,
the
you go. Yeah.
realistic expectations for the Steve-O's Detroit Pistons after they made
Oh, you
a
cut
lot of
me off.
wholesale changes this offseason?
Sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
Okay. So what is your realistic expectations for the Detroit Pistons this year?
Realistic expectations is not to make the playoffs. Realistically, I'm sorry, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to be a team maybe around like 10 or 11 seed in the standings, in the conference. Um, they did make a lot of off-season trades and acquisitions. They did get rid of Christian Wood after he was up and coming in Detroit. I think they should have held on to him. Um, but I don't know if they wanted to hold on to him. I don't know. I don't really see anything on the Pistons that really excites me. or really stands out. So I don't think they're going to be anything special this year. What
No,
about
yeah,
you?
I think they're gonna be middle of the pack in the bottom feeders of the Eastern Conference. So they do have a young good point guard rookie Killian Hayes out of France is pretty sweet. I don't know if he's getting much playing time behind Derrick Rose, who's still in Detroit for whatever reason. I think he's going to find his way out of Detroit come trade deadline time. And Blake Griffin, man, I think you would have saw the highlights about him and Thomas Bryant getting into it. He's a clown. He's gonna be out of the league in 5 years max.
Yeah,
So I don't see any realistic expectations for Detroit this year. Just hoping to get Imani Bates in 2 years on the draft.
yeah. I'll go to the next. This next one is, or yeah, you do the rest after this one. Does Steph Curry return to his old form this year? Is he worse, or does he get better than he used to be?
The chef's cooking this year. I don't know if you've seen much preseason basketball, but Chef
I
Curry's
have.
back to Chef Curry. He's looking
Yep.
sweet with the dreads. He's dropping threes all over the
Hmm.
place. He has not missed a beat at all. As much as I hate to say it, because Cleveland, Golden State go back finals 5 straight years. I am really excited to see Golden State play some basketball this year. Like you have Steph Curry, who I think a lot of fans are gonna be more attracted to, just coming off missing 60 games last year with a broken hand. Andrew Wiggins is on this team now, so you're gonna see a little Maple connection. James Wiseman is one of the best rookies coming out of the draft, who I think is a good candidate again to be Rookie of the Year. And I still hate Draymond Green, but he's still on that team. Kelly Oubre is another great player that we haven't
Ellie
like
Oubre.
is more underrated players in the league. So I'm really, really excited to see Golden State play. And I've seen a couple preseason games of him against the Kings, and Steph Curry just has not missed a beat, dropping
No,
dimes and trays, 19 points in 19 minutes. What else do you want from the guy?
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets better than he used to be, honestly, because he wants to come back. He doesn't have Clay Thompson, so he doesn't have Clay shooting the ball for him. So he's going to be seeing a lot of, he's going to get a lot of shots and a lot of opportunities. So I think he's gonna maybe he's one of those players that we didn't include in the MVP talks. Maybe he is, and a lot of people saying, "Hey, the Warriors, they're not going to be a team that makes the playoffs this year."
I think so.
I
They'll be a
think
playoff team.
I think they will too. Exactly. I think they'll be a playoff team. And then one acquisition they had today is the return of Jeremy Lin, and
Yeah,
he's back
today.
on the Golden State
Yes.
Warriors as a bench player, obviously.
Yes.
But good to see him back in the league after his brief stint in
Yeah,
the
he's a
in I was he
2019 NBA champion.
Yep, he was an NBA champion.
Nice. So the talk of the last couple of weeks has been James Harden trade speculation. So are you seeing James Harden being dealt, or do you think he gets work things out with Boogie and John Wall in Houston?
I think that he will work things out in Houston. I wouldn't be surprised if he got traded, but I'm leaning towards I think he's going to stay. You just got John Wall. You just got Boogie. You have Christian Wood. You have a good team there, a solid foundation. It's not a team that it's going to say, "Hey, this is like a title team for sure," but it's a team that's good. There, no one's like a bad player. I think it's idiotic if Harden wants to leave, unless I know he said I don't
Chasing
know if it's
rings,
he's chasing rings, right? So he wanted to go to Philly, play with Joel and Ben, and they said no way because we're not trading Ben Simmons.
which I
But
would do. Absolutely. One for
yeah,
one.
obviously I do 1 for 1. But Houston was asking for too much. They were asking for 3 first-round picks and Ben Simmons, and then Daryl Morey is saying, "Hell no, we're not trading Ben Simmons. He's part of our future." So that's not going to happen. I think Harden's going to stay on the team, and hopefully the Rockets. I think they're going to be a playoff team again. I think they'll make it to the second round this year.
I think when James Harden sees how good this team really is on the court, I think he's
Yeah,
going to be like, "What was I thinking?" Like leaving
exactly.
Houston. So honestly, like they do have one of the best starting fives in the league: John Wall, Eric Gordon, P.J. Tucker, James Harden, and then you add Boogie Cousins. So like this is one of the better starting fives in all of the NBA. So I think there's no question that they make the playoffs. It's just a matter how far they will go. Like
Hmm.
I'm sure James Harden wishes he has another superstar like LeBron has AD. So maybe John Wall returns back to his All Star form, which I'm sure everyone hopes he will.
Hopefully, yeah.
So yeah, like if John Wall returns to John Wall's old self, I think it's going to be a pretty dangerous combination in Houston.
Yep, 100%.
So the team that had a lot of promise for the start of last season is the LA Clippers. So do you think they're going to be back as good as they were before, or do you think they fall back in the standings?
I think they'll fall back a bit, as I said before. Like, I don't think they're going to be that 2 seed that everyone expects them to be. I think they'll maybe fall around like top 5 in the West. I think that's a realistic expectation for them because of how competitive the league's going to be. They lost Montrezl Harrell, and they lost. Did they lose anyone else? No, I don't think so. They just lost
That's
Montrezl
their
Harrell.
biggest loss.
That's their biggest loss for sure. So I don't know. Did they find a replacement for Montrez?
Surge.
So, oh yeah, Serge. Why am I an idiot? Yeah. So they do have Serge. Serge, obviously, he's no slouch himself, like you said. So I don't know. I don't think the Clippers will return to the way they were last year, but I think they'll still be a playoff team.
I think they'll be better because I think there's a lot
Really?
less pressure on the Clippers to do much this year just because of how much buzz was around Kawhi and Paul George
Yeah.
signing with LA. But, there's Paul George has put a lot of pressure on this team to win now, right? Like he just signed that ridiculous contract extension. So he's like, yeah, I'm here for 5 years. You better get a ring. So like it's, I don't think they did much of his team much favors with that comment, but that's for another day. But I do see the Clippers making, I would say, definitely in the second round, possibly Western Conference Finals because they were up 3-1 against Denver. Just couldn't
They
close
were.
the
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, that's true.
Sacramento owns the longest NBA postseason drought in the league with 14 seasons missing the playoffs. Is this the last time that they miss the playoffs and they make it this year?
I don't know. I'd love to see them make the playoffs. They have Buddy Hield. They have De'Aaron Fox there.
Who looks nothing like De'Aaron Fox from
Who
last year.
doesn't look like De'Aaron Fox right now. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, honestly, and I think it's going to continue to 15 seasons. And I don't know. They have to build around their young core that they have right now and make this team a playoff team. Right now, it isn't. So no, I don't see them making the playoffs this year.
I want to say yes, but I really don't think so because
Yeah.
you have two good players, right? You have De'Aaron Swipa and you have Buddy Buckets, right? You have two good players, but other than that, it's kind of one dimensional. Like Bogdanovich is a good player, but I really
Yeah.
have not seen him much play at all because I don't think he signed a contract yet.
No.
So I think he's still up in the air. Kyle Guy hit that shot against Golden State this week to win it for
Yeah.
Sacramento. So I don't know. Maybe Kyle Guy was a good college player, but I don't know how good of an NBA player he's going to be. But yeah, I think I would say honestly they're breaking it next year is when they're breaking the playoff drought. Not this year,
Not this year.
next year.
Heard it here first.
Exactly. Not a big deal. How good would those Portland Trailblazers be, right? They gave the Lakers their best shot, like we've said. So, do you see them making the playoffs?
I think they will make the playoffs. I think Dame really wants the team to make the playoffs. Obviously, he's gonna will them there. I think they're gonna be in that think they're gonna be around the 6th seed in the West, to make the playoffs. But I don't think they're gonna be a team that makes the deep playoff run like we've seen in the past. They haven't been able to make a deep playoff run like these other teams have in previous seasons. So maybe they prove me wrong, and maybe they make the Western Conference Finals again this year. But who knows? Do you think they're going to make it all the way to the finals, or do you think
No,
they're going to make it far?
I don't think that's a realistic expectation. I really think they will win maybe they'll win a playoff series.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a full season with Melo on their team. Like he wants to say he wants to retire a Portland Trailblazer. So
nice.
I mean, like it's not like he's playing bad, right? He was nailing some shots in preseason action.
Exactly.
So yeah, I really do think that they're gonna be making it to the second round of the playoffs this year. The biggest big three talk about right now has been the one in Phoenix with CP3, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. I would kind of talked about already, but do you see them making the Western Conference Finals?
I wouldn't be surprised. That's what I want to say. I would not be surprised if they do. They're not my pick to make the Western Conference Finals, but I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't even be mad if they made the Western Conference Finals.
I would not be mad at. So I would no chance
No.
in Blue Moon I'd be mad.
Because these three players here alone, they're really likable players. Like there's nothing other than the fact that DeAndre Ayton had like that substance thing. I don't even think that was a huge deal for most people. I think they're really likable. I think they're really talented, and
they're young.
If they make
young core,
they're young core. But if I think
Chris.
You have CP3 there. He's gonna be leading that team. He's the leader on that team. He did the same thing with OKC. They were a young team. You see how good they were last year. Everyone thought they weren't gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna be a bad team. Made the playoffs, but I think it's gonna be the same case here with the Suns. And then they even have better players than OKC did last year. So
exactly 100%. The New York Knicks rookie Obi Toppin's been making some noise in the preseason game so far, putting a posterize and dunk on this week with the pass from the Maple Mamba RJ Barrett. Is he up for conversation for Rookie of the Year?
Honestly, he might be up if they give him enough playing time. I think he's going to make himself a candidate for Rookie of the Year this year. I think a lot of people expect LaMelo to be that lock for Rookie of the Year this year already, but you have a good class this year, like a pretty decent class. You have Anthony Edwards and
there's no clear-cut favorite.
Exactly. There's Anthony Edwards with Minnesota who can prove he's really good in there. James Wiseman, Golden State needed James Wiseman, so he's going to play a big factor with them there. And then Obi Toppin in the Knicks. I think he kind of dropped where people thought he would in the draft.
Yeah, I thought he was going to Cleveland.
Exactly. And he ended up on the Knicks at like 8th overall, something like that. So he dropped. I think he wants to prove himself that, hey, I should have been picked higher, even though I was eighth. I should have been picked higher than that. So yeah, I think he makes a case for himself this year.
Hometown team in New York as well. So
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think it just boosts your like. I think it's gonna be a lot of very hard to psych yourself up to play this year, just because there's no fans or as much
Yeah.
fans as they want to have.
Hmm.
So especially in New York, right, with how hot the market is there in New York, that you're gonna play in front of the fans, and Spike Lee sitting 2 seats away from you, it's pretty tough. So I think like RJ Barrett, I think has a lot to prove for this season. You know, being left off the All Rookie team, which I think
Yep.
is a surprise.
Oh, it's
Julius
solid.
Randle is the worst $85 million the New York Knicks ever spent on, but I think he's going to prove himself that he's worth $85 million.
Yeah.
And Mitchell Robinson and Kevin Knox, a lot of people are pushing them to the side, but they're two really good young players who have a lot to prove still, and that are they're not very they're on their second, third years of their contracts, so they're still young and they still have a lot of chance to grow. So I think the Knicks can, I would say, could turn some heads, but I would hopefully not say that they're going to be making the playoffs because I think it'd just be a disgrace to the league. But you know,
Yeah.
the Knicks have been bad for so long. I think the trend continues.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the last one for the night is that Philly again made a lot of post or off-season acquisitions, and not some for the better, some for the worse. Do they make a deep playoff run this year? You know, they've been kind of snake bitten in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. So do they get over the hump this year?
I think they get over. I don't know. I think they make it to the second round this year. That's what it's been like the previous years so far. I don't think they really get over that hump and make it to like the Western Conference Finals. Um, like we keep saying, I keep saying this. There's so many good teams. I don't think Philly is. They're obviously good. You can't deny the fact how good they are. I'm a Celtics fan, so I just hate Philly. But they have Ben Simmons and they have Joel Embiid, and like you said, they got Seth Curry this year, and then they have Doc Rivers coaching them with Doc Rivers, and he's the Tobias Harris whisperer because when he was on the Clippers, Tobias Harris was nasty. So does he make Tobias Harris even better again after? Did you? I want to let you know this. Did you know Tobias Harris has like maybe like the sixth? I think it was like the sixth or seventh richest contract in the league right now. Tobias
That's
Harris.
that's good.
Yeah,
Good on
that's
his
good for
agent.
him. Yeah, it's his agent is just off the wall. He's amazing. But I think that Philly with Doc Rivers, I think they'll play better in the regular season, have a better record than usual. But I don't think they get over that hump in the playoffs. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think they added what they needed to add, and that was shooting, right? Because you know Ben Simmons
Yeah.
can't shoot to save his life. Because I
Yep.
don't know, he gets a max deal for not shooting a jump shot. I think me and you are in that same conversation for max contracts then.
I think so too.
Yeah. So they added Seth Curry, they added Danny Green, right? So two pretty established shooters in the NBA.
Oh, yeah,
And you
Danny.
added Dwight Howard, right? Like a good backup center
Yeah.
for Joel. So a lot of load can be taken off of his shoulders. He can just play his game. But yeah, like if Ben Simmons can't shoot a jump shot, all he's doing is running 90 miles an hour down straight and narrow. You have two guys wait on the wings like Seth Curry and Danny Green. I think it's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Eastern Conference Finals success, but I would
Mm.
say, like you said, second round like they usually finish every year.
Yeah, I think so too. But that wraps it up for today. That's all we wanted to talk about. We want to give you a little preview for the season because it's a week away. Get ready for some Christmas basketball if you do watch
Oh yeah.
some Christmas basketball. But yeah, it's we're gonna be back Sunday for our game picks. Obviously, once again, the
Another
season's
upset in the Mercs. Thank you very much. Oh my
and
God, this is worse than the Steelers pick. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? Jacob
I
stays
should just
winning.
not talk, and I think it won't happen. If I don't jinx it, I think it just won't happen.
Oh,
I'm not even gonna comment on your picks this week. I think, but we're gonna talk about those picks on Sunday. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Tell your friends. We're still doing the giveaway. I hope you guys realize this.
yeah, it might be 2K22. Honestly, like you guys,
Maybe 2K22 at this point, but we're still reaching for 100 subscribers. You guys just need a comment. You guys need a like. You gotta comment, subscribe, and then show us on Instagram. Send proof that you did it, and you're automatically in the draw for it. That's all you have to do.
so many people have already put it over. So like, I don't know if you'll win.
Yeah,
So many people.
I
So many.
don't know if you're gonna win. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, we'll be back on Sunday for game picks. I think it's probably close to the records right now. I don't know how close they are, but they're gotta be 1 or 2 games off
they've
with
got to
only
be a few
3 weeks,
games.
3 weeks to go.
Exactly.
So it's
2
gonna
more
get
3
hot,
weeks.
ladies
Yep,
and
it
gentlemen.
is.
But yeah, until Sunday.